AMG C63. It can only mean one thing, can't it? Small saloon car stuffed with massive V8 engine. Not anymore, it isn't. You see, in the new C63, you don't get 8 cylinders. You don't even get 6 cylinders like you get in an M3. Instead, you get a 2-litre 4-cylinder engine with a massive dollop of hybrid boost. I think for German muscle car fans, this is the most controversial car of the year. Strap in.
It all began in 1997 with the 306 horsepower 4.3 litre C43, back when Mercedes badges made sense. Next came the 5.4 litre C55, but the smallest Mercedes super saloon really came of age with the 6.2 litre C63. Mercedes kept the name for the follow-up, even though it downsized to a twin turbocharged 4-litre V8 good for over 500 horsepower in the C63 S. But now, the era of V8 C-classes is over.
And this is what we've got instead. It's basically the 2-litre 4-cylinder nutter engine from an A45 AMG turned up to even wilder levels of craziness. It alone puts out 476 brake horsepower. It has an electric motor on the turbocharger to eliminate lag, and then there's another electric motor on the rear axle connected to a 2-speed gearbox. And added together, the numbers are absolutely mental. I feel like AMG was so worried people, maybe you, will get upset about the loss of the V8. They've just gone crackers with the power numbers. 680 metric horsepower, or 670 brake horsepower, and it's got 752 pounds-feet of torque. And yes, despite this car being 4-wheel drive, you can still put it into drift mode and send all 680 horses to the back. Right, I've had to close the bonnet and jump inside because the weather has gone a little bit English, and I wanted to talk about the spec of the car a bit more, and I've had to do something I wouldn't normally do and bring my notes and AMG's information, because, I mean, I like to nerd out about a car, but this thing is so phenomenally complicated, I just can't keep it all in my head. Here are some things that have jumped out at me, okay? So 670 horsepower, 752 pounds-feet, and yet 156 grams per kilometre of CO2 and 34 UK miles per gallon. I mean, that's like Golf performance on the fuel economy. Extraordinary. The battery is a 6.1 kilowatt hour, so it's not a huge plug-in hybrid designed for loads of range. They're saying this is much more in a kind of F1 style. You're designed to discharge the battery and then charge it up very quickly. So it's all there for performance. You get about 13 kilometers, so that's what, 8 miles of electric only range. Good for, you know, maybe doing one commute, leaving the house quietly without waking up that raucous 4-cylinder. We'll talk about the noise more in a moment. Now, the battery weighs 89 kilos, which is reasonably modest, but because this car's got rear wheel steering, adaptive suspension, 4-wheel drive, which can disconnect the front axle, it's all terribly complicated. I had to read the weight to myself several times. This saloon is 2,111 kilos. This is a 2.1 ton Mercedes C-Class. So now the 680 horsepower does start to make sense, doesn't it? It needs a phenomenal amount of power because it's hugely heavy. You get 9-speed, paddle shift, gearbox, but then you get a second gearbox at the back because that electric motor actually upshifts to a second ratio once you go past, I think it's around 140 kilometers an hour. So the motor's doing 13,500 RPM. It's maxed out. It then up changes automatically. You don't have to worry about shifting that. Nice of the computer to do something for you. And then you get an extra boost from the electric motor through more of the speed range. I mean, this is peak German performance car. However, let's forget all of that for a minute and talk about something we can all understand. You used to have a 6.2 litre V8 when one of these, or a 4 litre twin turbo, and even when they downsized, it retained the noise. So I think our minders have left us alone. This is electric mode. Press the start button. You hear that sort of Star Wars throb, and of course, no other noise. Now I'm going to put the car into sport mode. We've got a 4-cylinder idle. Sounds very normal. Doesn't sound particularly expensive. What I'm going to do, go through Sport Plus. Now we've got a bit more of a warble. Feels like that might be being augmented. Right, we'll put away all the science for a moment and just have a think about the simple stuff you can take in with me. How the new C63 looks, or chiefly what's different from a normal C-Class. Starting up here, this tiny engine needs a lot of cooling. So there's a new bonnet vent, fake on these sides, but actually vented in the middle. This is where you'd normally have a Mercedes badge on a C-Class, but that's now an A45 logo. The Panamericana retro grille, we're used to that now from AMG. And then down here, big intake. Almost looks like they've just taken the bumper off the front of an AMG 1 and shoved it on a C-Class. Now, wider front wheel arches. These are 76, well, the whole front axle is 76mm wider than a normal C63. So these 20-inch rims fill the arches nicely. This one's got the optional ceramic brakes. But yeah, all of this, the wider metal pressing, looks expensive. This doesn't. This is plastic. Looks a bit naff, to be honest, this vent. And here you've got a turbo E-Performance badge, so everyone else knows that you're better than them. Come down here. Big old side skirt. I think this car's got some sort of carbon pack on it, because look, we've got carbon mirrors, carbon side skirt. Car's a lot more subtle though back here. Doesn't have that butch stance of a BMW M3. We do have a carbon fibre ducktail spoiler on the boot lid. Bit of a fin down here. And a rear diffuser, and then of course the classic AMG 4 tailpipes. So if you actually have a look, well, they're fakes. You can actually see the real tailpipe back there. I think overall it is incredible, given how fast this thing is, that it does look relatively subtle. I mean, you're talking about a car that can do 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds, has a top speed limited to 174 miles an hour, and well, it's a C-Class that's got more power than a Ferrari Enzo. But I don't think you'd ever know it.
Right, now we've digested all the numbers, let's go out for a drive. Except, I'm afraid I'm not allowed in the hot seat. So, I'm riding shotgun with AMG's Chief Technical Officer, Jochen Herrmann. If you want a job like his, make sure you're paying attention to maths and physics at school. Right, this is a new experience. I'm in an AMG, and the engine's not on. Yeah, and it just feels like any other electric car. I don't mean that as offensive, but it just at the moment just feels like an EQE or...
Right, and this is something, you know, that it's new for a C63, that you can do this, like leaving early in the morning, coming home late at night.
Well, this is where the Formula One connection comes in, because those guys are rinsing the battery every lap, aren't they?
Right,
you use the battery, you deploy it tactically, and then you charge it straight back in.
Yes, and the battery technology coming from Formula One. But also you will hopefully see in the next couple of minutes, there's a lot of functions and software coming from this. So everything that we have learned from the AMG 1, we put also into this car.
I mean, setting up these cars now, it just sounds like it's as much an exercise in computer calibration as it is in engineering. You must have to have some very clever computer science guys come in.
Yeah, and this is what I meant, not only what we have learned from the one, but this will be the future of car development. We'll put on the engine.
Okay, let's have it. This 4-cylinder.
And you can feel the whole, like also vibration, everything changes in the car, right? It's a different car.
And it already feels quite fast. Wow. And how much of this engine related to the engine you'd find in an A45? 75%, 100%? Is it
80%?
80%. And then what have you changed to bring the extra power out?
The major change is the electric turbocharger.
Of course, yes.
And
so
in this car, it runs on 400 volt.
Yeah. So this is designed to give you no lag, basically.
Right. And that combines perfectly. Now let's see what we can do on this corner here, right? So we're
very technical uphill left-hander there.
Really, the homework begins with the drivability. With these different driving modes.
I just can't get over how fast that's changed. It feels like even 10 years ago it was just pulling more power out of combustion engines and then turbocharging, and now it's immediately changed. Now everything is about calibrating electric motors and rear wheel steering and torque vectoring and electric turbochargers to all talk to each other, which just sounds terrifying to me. What I'm interested in is with the switch to hybrid is going to be controversial for people who love the V8.
Yes.
Was it forced upon you by legislation,
No.
or is it something that the engineers chose to do because it makes the performance better?
Yes. If you go back some years, we were sitting there and said, okay, we can do another V8.
So you would have been able to get another V8 through the test cycle, the emissions.
Yeah.
This would have been possible.
Yeah. Because we still have the V8s in the others cars. That's not the problem. But we know that we have to transform into the future. And we thought, okay, how can you make a car more efficient and give even more power to the customer, and maybe even a broader bandwidth to the customer? I mean, this is exactly what we do here.
And I'm fascinated by that. How can we give more power to the customer? Are customers honestly coming to you from, C63 S, 503 horsepower, going, not fast enough, guys, needs way more power? They're just addicted to more power all the time?
Yeah.
Nerdy question, but now you've not got a big V8 up front, the engine is smaller. How much has the weight distribution changed? Are you lighter at the front and heavier at the back now?
Yes,
with the battery?
we're like a 52 on the back.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And is that actually beneficial for the handling in a way?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm braced. Give me all you got.
Oh, hold on, I did something wrong here.
Okay, we're in the checkered flag,
Yes.
race mode,
Weiterverbot.
AMG Master Dynamics. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Feels like it's got a box of first gears. It's just the same acceleration rate.
So now let's go on comfort, right? Like regular comfort driving, and you would still see the handling of the car.
Does comfort change the behaviour of the rear wheel steering?
Yes, everything. The steering, the braking,
Suspension, of course.
also the amount of energy that we put through the electric rear
Right.
into the car. But you can still, the car handles on comfort mode pretty well.
Yeah. Taking a lot of curve there.
This is comfort, this is not race, right?
Yeah.
So if we do the same thing on race,
The front end just feels absolutely nailed. That wants to come round.
so now I'm having a function called boost. So now it's on boost.
Yeah.
Now we're only giving you 50 kilowatt of energy, of power on the rear axle. And what I will show you once I will push the pedal down to the kick down, we will add another 100 kilowatt.
So this is almost like KERS, almost like boost from Formula
exactly. See, so now I'm going, still enough power, right?
1. Yeah. Oh yeah, you feel the It's like you've been rear-ended. It's like you dropped another gear almost. You've just got that extra surge of...
And you can imagine, right, being on a racetrack, doing this, and then, now it's overpassing.
I can imagine doing it maybe a few times, and then I think most people would just be, I want all the power all the time. But
You can do that,
yeah.
but like in Formula 1, they do the quickest lap when they do the qualifying.
Yeah. So with this 2 litre, I'm fascinated by this engine. 476 horsepower from a 2 litre 4-cylinder engine, which is the same as the old 6.2 litre V8 had, a few generations ago. Is this engine now right at the limit of what you can do with a 4-cylinder and make it street legal and serviceable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is about the limit.
Yeah.
Right, I've got another C63 for you. Don't say I never treat you. Slight difference with this one though. This is the one you want. It's the wagon. Few key differences we should point out as we work our way down to the business end. First, matte paint. Don't do it, it's awful. Now, look at this, aero wheels. These are 20-inch wheels, but this aero cover gives you slight AMG 1 vibes. But, of course, this is what we're interested in. This is why BMW had to go and make an M3 Touring, because AMG are the perhaps undisputed kings of the outrageous performance estate car. Or are they? Look at this. There are 2 things you need to know about the back of this car. The first thing is that this red badging is disgusting. I don't care if you're a Man United fan, it's awful, don't do it. The main thing, why we love performance estate cars, is because they're practical. You go to the tip, you help your mate move house, you put your dog in it, and then you go home at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Yeah, not anymore. Can you see the problem here? Yeah, if you take a small estate car and you fill it with batteries and motors and rear wheel steering, It's all got to go somewhere. We have got a big lip here. There's no way of lifting the floor up, so there's no under surface storage, and there's another step up here. You think, okay, I'll solve that by putting the back seats down, and then you've got this canyon on the other side. If you thought that the missing V8 was the only controversial thing that had gone from the C63, yeah, I'm afraid some of the boot space has disappeared as well. It might be time to trade in your Great Dane for a Chihuahua. Right, we've jumped inside. Let's have a look at what's changed in here for a C63. Because these interiors are so minimalist these days, it can be difficult to spot it. So we'll start up here. Same screen behind the steering wheel, but all the graphics are changed. And I particularly like this one. If I just swipe through, it takes a little while because these buttons are a pain. But look at this, 5 different temperature gauges. I've got temperature readouts for the gearbox, the engine oil, the engine coolant, the electric motor, and the battery temperature. I mean, it's full on NASA spec in here. And of course, if you don't like that, you can change it. This whole car just seems to be about things you can configure and tweak. So if I press home, look, I've got classic dials, sport dials, understated dials, and somewhere there we go, the track pace mode with a G meter and all sorts of other readouts telling me how hard I'm pressing the accelerator. I mean, I know how hard I'm pressing the accelerator because I have nerves in my feet. Okay, now all of this is operated by a similar steering wheel to what you get in a normal C-Class, and I have to say, not one that I like at all. I like the Alcantara, the suede. I like that it's nice and thin. Take note, BMW, their M steering wheels are horrible. They feel like they're made out of old sausages. What we have got here though are touch sensitive swipey buttons. I didn't even mean to hit that. No, go away. That's all quite tricky, but we have got some tactile controls down here. So this is your usual AMG controls. These have been in for a while now, but they feel a lot more expensive in the new C63. On the right hand side here, a dial. You click round, that's taking me from comfort mode, sport, sport plus, race, and if I go the other way, electric drive and battery hold. And then by clicking that, I change the amount of regen that I'm getting from the motor, because of course you can't use the paddles for that most of the time because the paddles are changing the gears. Then on this side, I've got toggles for traction control, suspension, the gearbox, the AMG dynamics. Obviously, I'm going to leave that in master. Now, if you like screens, come with me to the central screen because, yes, it's the C-Class. It's a full-on Tesla copycat inside. There are very, very few buttons and everything is in the touchscreen. So the interesting bit is if I hit this AMG button, this is where all the modes live. I think most C63 S E performance owners are going to be spending a lot of time in here. So again, by tweaking this here, oh, I've just found a reduced mode. I think that's so you don't fall off the road in the snow. Here we go then. So individual, hold battery, electric. You can see all the graphics changing. I mean, goodness knows how long they spend calibrating all these colors and displays. And then of course you can tweak everything. So if you want to be in race mode but have comfort suspension, if you want to be a AMG master, again, it allows you to change it. I think that's easier done in the individual setting. Graphics are all very sharp and crisp, and the screen seems to react pretty quickly. For me, I miss the old days where AMGs had a section of buttons down here. Oh, and one more nerd point, because I know you like a nerd point. When you go into the main menu, the car on the display up here is a proper C63, and we're in the wagon, so it is an estate. It really annoys me when they don't change the spec of the car on the screen. But AMG have had the attention to detail to do just that. Right, that's all the technology, but what about the rest of the interior that we're sitting in? I mean, AMG haven't quite announced prices for this just yet, the day we're filming this, but it's going to be an expensive car. It needs to feel like one inside. So what do we think of how it's built? I do like the steering wheel. I know I've mentioned that. I like the materials. I like the fillets of metal down here. Don't know if you can see this, but we've got a leather stitched dashboard, nice red thread running through here, and on the door, red seat belts. The Germans like a bit of that, don't they? But it is so minimalist. You've kind of got very little extra AMG cues to point out. Big slab of carbon fiber looks cool, but I've found in other C-Classes that this gets very, very reflective. Not as much as this though. Piano black needs to die. AMG do tend to do good seats. Might be able to see the A45 AMG logo with the apple tree on it here, big AMG sign behind me. But yeah, these are great seats. Driving position feels pretty much spot on. I don't think these are quite as firm and give you as much of a wedgie as you're getting in as the old AMG seats did, but that's no bad thing. They are unfortunately an option, and they're one I think you're going to want, because I've had the passenger ride in the car with the standard seats and I was sort of flopping around. So I think you want these ones. Right, I think we'll end the interior tour there, because there is nothing more frustrating than sitting in a near 700 horsepower car and a load of Germans telling you that driving it is verboten. So I'm going to get out. Well, since it's starting to rain, I've been thinking we are going to need a fire extinguisher plane in the comments underneath this one. I think some of you are going to love the modes, the configurability, the sheer breadth of what the new C63 hybrid can do, and the rest of you are going to be furious about that V8 being gone. I will make my mind up when I've driven this car, but I will leave you with one thought. In about 10 years, maybe a little bit longer, you won't be worried about there being a 4-cylinder engine in the bonnet of a C63, because there won't be any engines in AMGs at all.